In an unprecedented turn of events, Iran strikes Israel for the first time as the war in the Middle East escalates. Democratic congresswoman suggests black people should be exempt from paying taxes as a form of reparations. Katie Hobbs signs the Taylor Swift Act, yet refuses to sign act barring homeless people from road medians. Trans runner shows exactly why men, biological men, should never compete against women. Welcome to Principled Politics. Today, we're going to cut through the commentary. As many of you know, obviously there's a war in the Middle East between Hamas and Israel. And if any of you have been keeping track of your news cycles, you would have heard about the Iranian launch of cruise missiles and drones into Israel. And so we'll get into this right now. The Daily Wire reports, Iran launches cruise missiles, ballistic missiles at Israel. The Islamic Republic of Iran, the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, says that it has launched ballistic missiles at Israel in addition to cruise missiles and hundreds of suicide drones. Iranian officials told state-run media that they had launched a first wave of ballistic missiles at Israel, which should only take 12 minutes to arrive. A senior U.S. official told ABC News that the U.S. now believes that there will be up to 500 drones and missiles fired at Israel from Iraq, Syria, southern Lebanon, and Yemen, where the Iranians have terrorist proxy groups, but that the majority will come directly from Iran. And then a quote from Mark Dubowitz, CEO of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, the FDD. This will be the first direct attack from Iranian soil by Khamenei's regime after years of murdering Israelis through his terror proxies. And wrapping up the article, it says, the attack led to several countries in the region, including Israel, Jordan, Iraq, and Lebanon, to close their airspaces, according to Flight Radar 24, real-time aircraft flight tracking tool. The article, I'd encourage you guys to go and read it. It just goes into more detail, and we have a lot of more resources that we're going to flesh out as we update you guys on this latest breaking news that happened this week. But just to quickly comment on everything going on in the Middle East, I think examining where we're at politically with this issue, with the administration, with Joe Biden, it's very clear to see that we're taking a middle-of-the-road stance as Joe Biden seeks to please the Hamasniks, to please the voters in Dearborn, Michigan, and tries to win some of the radicals in his base. And we see that in his policy and even in his response to this. As we can see, Joe Biden responded to the attack and basically warned the Israelis that if they were to plan for a counteroffensive, that the U.S. wouldn't stand by them in that. The U.S. wouldn't back them in that mission. And we've seen this. This isn't news. This isn't anything new. Time and time again, the United States administration, the president, Joe Biden, has tried to shackle the Israeli government and has tried to keep them on a chain, for lack of better words, in their response to Hamas. And because of that lack of aggression, because of the way in which Joe Biden is carrying himself in regards to this, in this weak foreign policy stance that Joe Biden has taken, we see the direct response to this, and that is exactly what we've gotten. Iran stepping in directly, launching cruise missiles, drones, directly to Israel. I mean, the reason why Iran uses terror proxies, the reason why they used to funnel everything through these proxies was because they were too afraid, they were spineless, and too afraid to directly attack any of their adversaries, to directly attack because they were afraid of a strong American military. They were afraid of strong alliances that we had in the Middle East and our presence in Afghanistan, and just the way in which we combated those Iranian proxies in the past. But now with Joe Biden's policy and his leniency and just the lack of clarity in his message to Iran and to their proxies, it has led Iran to feel comfortable enough to take a direct attack, to take a more direct approach without having to worry about any sort of response. And so as we look at this, we're going to continue to update you guys as more takes place in the region, as more we get more developing news and what's next. I know that last that I had heard of, and last that I'm sure you guys have heard of, Benjamin Netanyahu was speaking about setting a date and how they had a date set for their plan to invade Rafah and to take out the last battalions of Hamas. And so with this might change some things. And so we'll continue to report on it. Another headline, moving on from this to another headline regarding Israel. John Fetterman, as many of you may know, the sweatshirt, hoodie-wearing Democrat who has surprisingly turned moderate, has this to say about the Iranian strikes. Fetterman on Iranian strikes, this is from The Hill, it really demonstrates how it's astonishing we are not standing firmly with Israel. Senator John Fetterman, Pennsylvania, said that Iran's aerial assault on Israel shows how the U.S. is not standing firmly with Israel. That is correct. That is what we just stated here, and John Fetterman has the 2 cents and the common sense to be able to recognize that. Fetterman reiterated Sunday on CNN's State of the Union that there should not be conditions on sending additional aid to Israel, and called again for the U.S. to stand with its ally in the wake of Iran's missile and drone attack on Israel over the weekend. Well, a couple of things, and this is Fetterman speaking, actually, I think it really demonstrates how it's astonishing that we are not standing firmly with Israel. And there should never be any kind of conditions on that at all. When a nation can launch hundreds of drones towards Israel, I'm not going to be talking about conditions ever. That is the words of someone who is thinking rationally. The fact that Israel, when it comes to their response, Joe Biden warning them and telling them, we're not going to support you. We're not going to be there by your side if you do a counteroffensive. And we even had idiots saying that, we should only fund the Iron Dome, that we should only fund defensive measures and not give aid for offensive measures. That's what some congressmen and congresswomen are saying. And that is what is leading to the escalation in the region. That is what is leading to the Iranian government to feel like they have the ability to step in to this directly. And so I wish more Democrats were like John Fetterman and could actually have a rational brain with this. But once again, Joe Biden is captivated by his base. He's captivated by the radicals. And now we're going to transition and show you exactly who these radicals are. We're going to show you exactly who Joe Biden is catering to. And we're going to show you exactly what they're up to as we speak. And so these are the people that Joe Biden thinks he needs their votes. These are the people who Joe Biden wants to please and wants to receive their votes so that he can win 2024 election. So we have this headline from the New York Post, and then we actually have the clip that we'll play for you guys of a news report. And so I'll read the article briefly, and then I'll play the clip. Anti-Israel protester threatens to murder lawmakers at California City Council meeting. See you at your house. An anti-Israel protester was arrested for making death threats against lawmakers at Bakersfield, California City Council meeting. During the forum's public comments section, protester Riddhi Patel, who identifies as non-binary, no comment on that yet, threatened to murder Mayor Karine Go and council members over the decision to install metal detectors at City Hall amid anti-Israel demonstrators. So we're going to go ahead and just play the quick clip there, and then I'll make a few comments.
Navratri starts off this week. I remind you that these holidays that we practice, that other people in the global south practice, believe in violent revolution against their oppressors. And I hope one day somebody brings the guillotine and kills all of you motherfuckers.
Thank you. And with that,
regardless of whether you elect people into office, they'll backstab you, they'll let you die, and for that reason, you guys want to criminalize us with metal detectors? We'll see you at your house. We'll murder you.
next speaker, please.
Lance, followed by Kev, followed by Valeria.
Ms. Patel, that was a threat, what you said at the end, and so the officers are going to escort you out and take care of that.
Ooh, well, there you have it. Just your typical California City Council meeting. And the classic, see you at your house, or we'll murder you. Because that's clearly normal. That is a good sign of sanity, of someone who is in their right mind, and who clearly shares the same beliefs as you, clearly shares the same beliefs as me, and every other American. That's why they're here. That's why they're here to contribute to our country, and they're here to bring about, diversity and good ideals. So this woman was obviously arrested, and they're pressing charges against her, which is great. But the reality is that this right here, these are the people that Joe Biden is seeking to appeal to. The radicals, the people who literally will see you at your house and will murder you. That's their message to their elected officials. And you heard it herself. That was probably a more open and clear discussion and discourse that she had, but you heard it in the first clip that we played, where she talks about, understanding the religion, understanding the worldview behind it, and understanding that Islam and many sects of Islam have a jihad. They have religion and a holiday, and a religion that has holidays in which they emphasize violent overthrow of the government, violent uprisings, and violent takeover of the world. And so Joe Biden will continue to cave to these radicals. He'll continue to appeal to the people who are insane. And so if he thinks this is going to win him the votes that he needs, this right here, by polling data, when you look at the Israel conflict with Hamas, most Americans, right? Because this might be a shocker to most of you guys, but most Americans actually don't like this kind of stuff. Most Americans find people that block the road and find people who make, a fool of themselves and are radical. Most Americans really don't like that. Most Americans, what they want is stability. What they want is to be able to go to the grocery store, to buy groceries at a good price, to have gas that doesn't cost them $300 to fill up their tank. And to have a stable government and a stable system that is appealing, that a stable system that they know will work the next day. And that's not what the radicals propose. The radicals are always proposing fast change right away and proposing, the overthrow and the murder of people and putting new people in place. And that's not what most Americans want. And so if Joe Biden thinks that this is the road to victory, then he is sadly mistaken. The second headline that we'll play for you guys, or the second headline, I should say, we'll read for you guys and then play the clip to go along with it, that happened also this week, that couples with a Hamas protester threatening to kill city council members and the governor. Says this: Gaza protests blocked Golden Gate Bridge, Oakland Highway. And you have that right. So just this week, a bunch of Gazan protesters and Hamasniks, similar to the one we just saw, that are threatening to murder, murder their city council members. From the Hill, it reports Gaza protests block Golden Gate Bridge, Oakland Highway. Protesters against the American response to Israel-Hamas war shut down a pair of freeways in the Bay Area during the Monday morning rush hour, including blocking traffic on the iconic Golden Gate Bridge. Obviously, if you live in California, I've only visited a handful of times, but even the handful of times I have visited, I wanted to leave immediately because of how horrendous the highway system is there and how extremely slow traffic is during that rush hour time, the morning and then the afternoon when people are going and coming to and from work. But southbound US Highway 101 across the bridge and northbound Interstate 880 in nearby Oakland, protesters were blocking starting around 7:30 a.m. PDT on Monday. California Highway Patrol said protesters carried signs reading "Stop Arming Israel" and "Bay Area demands no murder for profit," in reference to American military support for Israel. So this is the part that cracks me up. I mean, I think it's really a double standard when you have the protesters standing there demanding no more murder for profit, demanding, no more violence and peace and all these things, yet at the same time they're willing to murder and to kill and to threaten murder for their profit and for their gain through jihad. And so obviously murder for them, but no murder for the other people. But even with that standard, we clearly know Israel is not murdering. Israel is defending itself. Israel is defending its right to live as a nation. And no voter, no person in their right mind is going to side or find this behavior appealing. Even with the climate activists. I mean, you look at the climate activists and the way in which they carry themselves. Most Americans can't stand that. I can't think of anyone with their right mind that doesn't cheer whenever the climate activists are ripped out of the road by the police officers. But of course, these ones are sacred. These protesters are very holy and sacred to Joe Biden and to the left, because these are the ones that are going to push him and to elect him back into office. So just a word of wisdom, I guess, to the left, although you can't speak wisdom into a fool's heart. If you have to align yourself with radical Hamas protesters and with people who have no choice but to block the roads and threaten to murder other people and threaten to do horrendous things, and who support a literal terrorist group in the Middle East that killed over 1,300 Israeli citizens and raped women, beheaded children, if that's who you have to side with to win an election, then I think that's a pretty clear indication that you are a very weak candidate, that you are a very weak presidential candidate, and that at the end of the day, you really, really have no principles. You have no standards. You have no backbone. And if that's what you attract, I've always heard growing up, this is what I've been told. You are who you attract. You are who you attract yourself. So, if you're kind, if you're gentle, and you have those spiritual fruit, as Christians would say, and you bear those things, then you're going to attract those kind of people around you, because people who do bad things or people who threaten to murder people aren't really attracted to that kind of behavior. They're attracted to other things. So Joe Biden clearly attracts the murderers. He attracts the rapists. He attracts the worst people and the people who support those kind of things. That's why Hamas loves him. That's why Hamas supporters love him. And that's why they're going to continue to try and push him in office. And so if you are a rational person, if you have principles, if you have any sense of morality and goodness within you, then you will not align yourself with the man who aligns himself with Hamas. You will align yourself with another candidate who supports rational behavior and who will not stand for highways being blocked and for protesters continuing to harass us and threaten terrorism in our country. And so I'll play the clip from the news article showing what happened at the Golden Gate Bridge. And then we're not going to waste any more time on this story. We're going to move on to another story, but I'll go ahead and play the clip for you, and then we'll move on to our next article.
Of the Golden Gate Bridge mid-span, where you see a number of vehicles stopped at a standstill. We can't make out from this picture where the protesters are. Now, remember, Amanda said over at 880, there's about 6 protesters who use this device to lock arms together and shut down all traffic in the northbound direction. I'm looking carefully through the monitors to see if we see something like that here in this picture. It maybe if it's just a handful of people, and it does look like you can see what looks like a banner that the protesters have sprawled out across what is, I believe, the southbound direction of the Golden Gate Bridge, and some cars stuck behind it. So it doesn't look like there's a mass of people in either freeway of demonstrators who have shut down the bridge, but just a coordinated, calculated effort to have a handful of people doing a few things to make sure that traffic comes to a standstill.
All right, a third
Moving on to our next article for the day, also coming from the New York Post. Democratic congresswoman suggests black people should be exempt from paying taxes as a form of reparations. A Democratic congresswoman is calling for black Americans to be exempt from paying taxes as a form of reparations, though she admitted that the plan may not work because many poor black people aren't really paying taxes in the first place. Jasmine Crockett, a freshman representative from Texas, said she heard a celebrity, though she could not remember which one, propose making black people tax exempt, and thought, I don't know that that's necessarily a bad idea. She recounted in an interview with the Black Lawyers podcast last week. One of the things they propose is black folk not to have to pay taxes for a certain amount of time because that puts money back in your pocket. And then article goes on to say, but at the same time, it may not be objectionable to some people as actually giving out dollars, she continued. Crockett then argued that reparations in some forms are necessary. So many black folk, not only do you owe for the labor that was stolen and killed and all other things, but the fact is we end up being so far behind. It is at this point that she suggests one of the biggest problems with the proposal is that some black people aren't already paying taxes. She says this, if you do the no tax thing for people that are already, say, struggling and not paying taxes in the first place, she says, before Carter suggests they may want those checks like they got from COVID rather than a tax break. Exactly, Crockett responds. And the article goes on as such. We'll actually play a portion of that interview just so you guys can see the interaction and see it in her own words. So we'll go ahead and play that clip.
This past week I saw, I don't remember which celebrity, but it was actually a celebrity, and I was like, I don't know that that's not necessarily a bad idea, but I'd have to think through it a lot. One of the things that they propose is black folk not have to pay taxes for a certain amount of time, because then again, that puts money back in your pocket, but at the same time, it may not be as objectionable to some people about actually giving out dollars. But obviously then you start dealing with the different tax brackets and things like that. And that's one of the reasons that, we argue the reparations make sense, because so many black folk, not only do you owe for the labor that was stolen and killed and all the other things, right? But the fact is, we end up being so far behind, right? And so it's how do you bring forth people? Exactly. And so it's if you do the no tax thing for people that are already, say, struggling and aren't really paying taxes in the first place, it doesn't really exactly.
They may want those checks like they got during COVID.
Exactly.
Well, there's the full clip, and we get to see her, elaborate on this wonderful idea that she received from a celebrity, which of course is exactly where, we get all of our great policy ideas, right straight out of Hollywood, straight out of the celebrity world is where all the greatest ideas come from. And so, clearly this congresswoman is taking her job very seriously and, just to go through and to talk about some of the things that she brought up there, some of the concerns. Now, I will be the first person to always advocate for, the destruction of the current tax system, to pull back on taxes and to eradicate it. I think a lot of the agencies, a lot of the things that we have right now are clearly in opposition to what the founders imagine taxation to look like. Just looking at the way taxes are dealt with now with the IRS, with the whole trying to tax different people differently, goes straight in the face of what the Constitution actually says about taxes. But we'll get to that in just a bit. But just to deal with Congresswoman Crockett, her arguments, and to deal with some of the things that she brings up, this whole idea that this group of people, this segment of the population, that they are owed reparations, that they are owed our money, right? So basically the way it would work is they wouldn't have to pay taxes. If we, let's just play this out in our heads, if we practically did this, because I'm a very practical man, if we let them off the hook, they didn't pay taxes, right? When we're already $32 trillion in debt. And a lot of that debt, most of it, I would say, is due to the fact that the people who wouldn't be paying the reparations are on welfare and are taking the government's money. So first off, we're going to pay these people. We're going to pay them to do nothing. We're going to pay them to exist, to breathe. And then after that, they're not going to pay taxes. So that means that more of the brunt of the burden is going to fall on me, fall on you, everyone who basically isn't black and isn't getting the reparations. We are going to take the brunt of that weight, and we are going to pay all the taxes to the federal government to then pay for the systems that keep these people poor and in the hood. Now, I know this firsthand. I have family. I have people that I know who've been on welfare, who've received it. And it is addicting. It is like a drug. These people get hooked on it. They live off of it. And as time goes on, it's almost impossible for them to get off of it. It's impossible for them to leave that system behind and to actually get a job and to be a productive member of society. And so this idea is obviously the worst idea ever. And that's why exactly it came from a celebrity. But it's just interesting how she just, flat out just throws it out there and just admits there's people not paying taxes, right? There's people not paying their fair share, as the left likes to say. And then just the quote that she says, so many black folk, not only do you owe for the labor that was stolen and killed and, all the other things, but we don't know what that means necessarily, all the other things, but just addressing stolen and killed. What about the Irish? What about the Jewish people? What about the Jews who, they were enslaved for a very long time. They were enslaved multiple times, in fact. Irish people were enslaved. Every single race, every single group of people has been enslaved at one point or another. So if that's the case, I'm all for it. Let's just, if everyone who's ever been enslaved at some point, their race, which basically would be everybody, we just all stop paying taxes. So I think that's great. I think I agree. I don't agree with her argument, but I agree with the end goal, to cut out the taxes. I think it's great. So I think we just take her argument, follow it to its logical conclusion. Everyone who's had ancestors who have been stolen from and killed, and not paid for their labor, and all other things. So we could lump in, all the other things that our ancestors have been through. I think we all fit into that criteria. So I think this is great. I think we just take her arguments. We put them forward in Congress and we let them, just eliminate taxes, and then we're good. And then finally we can, actually have a productive, efficient society, where we can have that free market. We can have all of our money back and be able to just put it back into the economy and to do some good things with it. So, she's not the smartest cookie in the cookie jar, but you know what they say, a clock is right at least twice a day. And so her conclusion's right. Her argument's wrong. We should get rid of taxes. Everybody, you need to cut back all these taxes. I mean, obviously we need taxes at some point. And so, I just thought it'd be interesting because I know, surprisingly enough, probably 95% of Americans have never read the Constitution. So I just wanted to read to you guys the actual clause, that is the tax clause that the founders instituted for taxes. And this is what it says. It's Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, and it reads as such. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, and imposts and excesses to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excesses shall be uniform throughout the United States. So clearly the way we do taxes right now is not matching this standard. It's not at all lays in with this. First off, it's for the common defense, which is great. We need defense. We need to protect ourselves. And to pay the debts. So just with those two things alone, our government is failing currently. First off, we don't pay our debts. We haven't. I mean, it's just something we don't do anymore. We just don't care. And that's, the American debt system now is just basically it's like an imaginary ceiling. I mean, it just keeps going and, it never ends. It's just like, that thing, kind of when your mom used to tell you to clean your room and then you kind of just stuff in the places to where people couldn't see it. And then you just basically pretended like it didn't exist and your room was clean. That's kind of like this, but just really a million times exaggerated. So we just kind of stuff it under the couch or in between the cushions and just act like it doesn't exist. So first off, they're not fulfilling their duty constitutionally to pay our debts. And to provide for the common defense and general welfare. Well, just there, we're not using our taxes to shut the border down. We're not using our taxes to stop drugs. We're not using our taxes to clean the streets and to make it a safer environment for everybody for the general welfare. Instead, we're instituting systems to continue to make people dependent on the government so that they are not increasing in their status, their current state of living is not increasing. And that's just goes right in the face of the Constitution and what it lays out is the duty and the purpose of taxes. And so, I'm just reading this because, of course I care about the Constitution. I care about the country and I care about us being accurate to what the founders had in mind. But that just makes me crazy. Nobody else does that. What's the Constitution anyways, right? Constitution's for those old guys who we have paintings of George Washington, Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, and it's for those guys that we don't need that. We're way smarter, right? We're way smarter than those guys. And so we've progressed past that. And so the new system is basically to, marginalize certain groups, meaning white people and everybody who's not black, and to make them pay more so that minorities and black people can have it easy. And so that we can just continue to pile debt and let everyone into the country. So anyways, with that point being made, I am in no way, shape, or form endorsing not paying your taxes, just in case anyone sees this and the IRS wants to come after me. But I am arguing that we seriously need to rethink the system in its current form and to, if it's even possible, kick the people out who are taxing us to death, literally. Only thing that's certain in this life is death and taxes. And salvation, if you believe in Jesus Christ. All right, well, we'll move on to the next headline. All right, moving on to next headline. Got a local one here to Arizona, and so we'll report on this one. It says, Katie Hobbs vetoes GOP bill aimed at barring homeless people from roadway mediums. This is from the Arizona Mirror. I'll read it and then we'll go through it. So it says, a bill aimed at limiting the presence of pedestrians on medians and intersections was one of the 5 bills vetoed by Governor Katie Hobbs earlier this week. The measure, House Bill 2658, would have prohibited pedestrians from gathering or soliciting from traffic medians, highway entrance or exit ramps, or while in an intersection without a sidewalk or crosswalk meant for pedestrians. Under the proposal, police would only been allowed to issue a warning on the first violation, but after a second violation, the pedestrian would have been subject to a civil traffic violation, and any subsequent violations would have resulted in Class 1 misdemeanor. State law already prohibits standing in a roadway for the sole purpose of soliciting, and pedestrians are always required to yield to traffic when crossing roadways at points without a proper crosswalk. As it moved through the legislature, the bill sponsor, Representative Joseph Chaflick, representative from Scottsdale, had called HB 2658 a safety bill that aims to protect the safety of not only the pedestrians but drivers as well. However, the bill raised concern as to how it would affect Arizona homeless population that makes up much of the pedestrian presence. Well, I mean, no joke. Sherlock could figure that one out. In metro areas like Phoenix. Among other states, Arizona has the 4th highest percentage of homeless residents that live without shelter. I'm a little confused by that sentence. Arizona has the 4th highest percentage of, houseless, not even homeless, houseless residents that live without shelter. So that's what we're calling them now. Houseless residents without shelter, okay? If you didn't know that, you know that now, okay? I don't want to see anybody saying homeless anymore. It's houseless without shelter. In her veto letter, gosh, this just gets better and better. In her veto letter, Hobbs emphasized the importance of precision, quote unquote, when approaching matters that will greatly impact such a vulnerable, a delicate community. You know, like how you think of like a butterfly or like a little fragile creature. You know, that's what these guys are. The vulnerable community. Recognizing the importance of constitutionally protected rights. Oh my gosh. This is my first time actually reading the article in front of you guys. So this is law. This is a raw, genuine first impression. I kind of glanced over it, and I mean, this is just ridiculous. Recognizing the importance of constitutionally protected rights. I mean, what about all the babies that you guys are killing every year? You know, I mean, that'd be a good place to start if you care about protecting rights. Or, you know, maybe protecting our right to property, to self-defense, you know, to defend ourselves from maybe hundreds of millions of illegals that are crossing every year. That's maybe a place we could start as Arizonians. Anyways, continue. That's just me talking out loud. Recognizing the importance of constitutionally protected rights, it is critical that we approach these matters with precision to avoid infringing on Arizonians' freedoms. Well, it sure doesn't seem like these my bad. I almost slipped up there. Hold on. It sure doesn't seem like these houseless residents without shelter care about our freedoms or our rights, you know, when it comes to pooping in people's backyards, to stabbing police officers, to violating, you know, the streets, to violating companies, businesses, and everybody's right to their property and to their safety. It sure doesn't seem like the houseless people care about that. Chaplik took to X, formerly known as Twitter. Every time we have to say X, do we have to say formerly known as Twitter? I feel like I see that everywhere. Anyways, Katie Hobbs' veto of my pedestrian safety bill, HB 2658, is simply about continuing her reign of lawlessness and will end up costing lives of pedestrians in dangerous areas of roadways, he posted, alongside a photo of a man soliciting from a median with his dog, who he claims could easily be hurt or killed in an accident at this busy intersection. Oh, okay, so the bill doesn't even really care about, I mean, I guess the point of the bill was, for the safety of, which I get. I can't tell you how many times I've seen these houseless people just run across the street with their dogs, their little chihuahuas, and almost get hit by cars. Let alone be so close to the curb you can't even take a right-hand turn without being afraid you're going to hurt one. But I guess that's the point of the bill. It's a pedestrian safety bill, so you can't linger on the sidewalks just in case you get creamed in the corner. But so yeah, I think I agree with his statement, right? It's just her reign of lawlessness, and it definitely will end up costing homeless people lives, as it already has, and it just goes to show where her priorities are. It goes to show what Hobbs really, at the end of the day, she's just a wet dish rag. She really doesn't do much. I think this is like the least covered governor in probably the entire country. Like, I don't hear anything about her hardly. That's even on Arizona, news coverage, local news coverage. You hardly even hear her name. So she's kind of just hiding, lurking in the shadows, and not really doing much but vetoing stuff and doing things here and there. But just to go back, I want to read it. Under this proposal, this has probably got to be the most lenient approach to cleaning up the streets that I've ever seen from it's from a Republican, let alone. So they're really, really taking it easy. And Hobbs still was like, no, this is too much. It says police would only be allowed to issue a warning, right? So you just say, hey, you can't solicit here. I'm just warning you. And then the second one, they're going to get a civil traffic violation for a homeless person. Houseless person. And then after that, a class 1 misdemeanor. I think they should just be rounded up. Like, I think if, after the first time, if you've been told not to be there and you're there again, I think it's trespassing. I think you should just be rounded up, taken in, move them, lock them up, do it again, lock them up for even longer, do it again, lock them up for longer. I don't know how else to put it. I just think that's the way it works. Obviously, if these houseless people don't show up for court dates, it's not like they're going to get in trouble. Nothing happens to them. They don't even have a home address to send the ticket to. Where are they going to show up? They're going to show up to the median. You know how like the people show up when you don't answer your traffic violation. When the police officer gives them the traffic violation, he's going to put corner of southwest corner on 19th and Thomas, and so then the person's going to come to the corner and look for them and say, hey, you didn't show up to court. What's the deal? Because they're going to have little addresses on the tent now. Oh my gosh, this is just a joke. I can't. But anyways, moving on from that, we got some good news. Really, really good news. I've literally been asking for this for years. Something I've been really, really pushing for here in Arizona, I think, is really gonna revolutionize the state. It's gonna really put us on the map. And I think because of this, I might have to take back my wet dish rag comment about Katie Hobbs, because just this week also, she may be okay with letting the homeless people run wild and stab police officers in the neck, but she is not okay with other things, and she's laying down the law. Okay, so we have this article, this headline. This is good news. We're going to read this, show you what Katie Hobbs is up to and how she's really a power player. Arizona governor signs the Taylor Swift bill, setting restrictions on buying concert tickets. House Bill 2040 prohibits someone in Arizona from using an automated software program to purchase an excessive amount of event tickets. Yes. Slow clap for the governor. This is what we needed. gosh, I can't tell you how many times I've gone online to get a Taylor Swift ticket, and the doggone robots took all the tickets. It's ridiculous. It's outrageous. Honestly, it's a crime against humanity that I couldn't see Taylor Swift this year because the tickets were gone. It almost brings me to tears because next year when she comes around, I might actually have a chance to see her in the flesh. So we'll keep reading. I'll try not to get emotional. A bill intended to stop bots from disrupting online ticket sales for popular Arizona events has been signed into law by Governor Katie Hobbs. Arizona House Bill 2040 prohibits a person from using an automated software program to purchase an excess amount of event tickets. Yeah, we already read that. So sometimes this has been referred to as the Taylor Swift bill in reference to the ticketing fiasco that occurred in 2022 for the musician's Eras Tour. The legislation authorizes the Arizona Attorney General's office to investigate these type of practices as form of consumer fraud. Wow. And it seems here she signed the 2040 bill, and she also signed House Bill 2194, which sets restrictions on how ticket resellers can conduct transactions in Arizona. As it goes on, the county contains around 63% of Arizona's population. That makes the county larger than, it's talking about the size of Arizona. Big place, obviously. It just kind of goes on with nonsense. But anyways, I was really upset, when I read the houseless person bill being vetoed. But then the very next article I read was this one, and it really brightened my day. I think it's good news to hear that our governor is really putting the focus in to make our daily lives better. Really focusing to clean up the streets and to, protect and create a safe environment and a thriving economy in Arizona, and to shut down our border and to protect us with the Taylor Swift bill. It's all wrapped up in there. You guys can't see it, but it's kind of like a butterfly effect. So what's going to happen is she's going to stop the bots from buying the Taylor Swift tickets, and that's going to allow air to move in a certain direction to where a book falls off a top shelf and hits her in the head, and then she realizes that we need to shut down the border and to clean the streets and to get fentanyl and stop the cartel from running Arizona. And that's my belief. I think that's why she did it. She knew what she was doing. All right. Well, sorry for the technical difficulties there. As you can tell, it's amateur hour over here, and I don't necessarily know how to navigate around technology all that great. So the feed did cut. The camera died, for lack of better words. But to conclude that last segment, to not leave you guys on a cliffhanger, basically everything that I reiterated at the end of that segment is basically that, Katie Hobbs is my nominee for best governor of ever, of our lifetime. I really think she's taking it head on, and she's really doing all that she can, and she is going to bring about change for Arizona. And if you can't tell, I'm being sarcastic, and this is all the more reason to get out and vote, to get out and to advocate for change so that we don't have wet dish rags running Arizona like Katie Hobbs. And so with that being said, let's move on to our next article, the final article for the day. And this one comes from the New York Post. And we got a clip to go along with this one, so I know you guys will like that. So it says here from the New York Post, trans runner sparks outrage as she zips past female athletes and leaves them in the dust at high school competition. A video of a transgender high school athlete zipping past her competitors, leaving them behind at a track and field meet, has sparked outrage online. The video, originally shared online by feminist magazine Redux, shows McDaniel High School sophomore Aiden Gallagher speeding past a group of biological female athletes and keeping a great distance between them and her before, I'm assuming it's he, so before he, it says she, but I'll correct it for you guys, I'm autocorrect. Great distance between them and him before he ultimately crosses the finish line at 25.49 second mark. The other athletes do not cross the finish line until the 31 second mark. Gallagher ultimately finished second in the girls' 200-meter varsity at the Sherwood Need for Speed Classic in Oregon. Oh, so that makes sense. This is Oregon, obviously. Wouldn't expect this anywhere else. So with Aster Jones edging her out of first place. Wait, I'm confused here. Hold on. Oh, he finished second. And there was a female, biological female, Aster Jones, edging her out for first place. Undercurrent policy of the Oregon School Activities Association endeavors to allow students to participate for the athletic or activity program of their consistently asserted gender identity while providing a fair and safe environment for all students. It goes on to note that once a transgender student has notified the school of their gender identity, the student shall be consistently treated as the gender for purposes of eligibility for athletic and activities, provided that if the student has tried out or participated in an activity, the student may not participate during the same season on a team of other gender. So basically, I mean, just to pause before we finish the rest of the article, I'm not saying I'm in high school, but if I was in high school in Oregon, or if you had a child who's in high school in Oregon, and, I was a full-grown man, because, if you've seen these high school students, the boys, I don't know what they're feeding them. Not all of them, right? I've seen the high school students are like 5 foot nothing right now. But, you're talking junior, senior, high school boy. That's a grown man at that point. Facial hair, testosterone through the roof. That's when boys are transitioning into men and they're gaining the most testosterone past their puberty and really coming into themselves, coming into fruition as men. But all it takes is, under the current policy of the Oregon School Activities Association, they have to allow anyone who basically just, you just call up the school and say, hey, I'm a girl. I'm a girl, or I'm a boy. And at that point, from that point forward, the school has to treat you as your asserted gender. And if you guys remember, we reported last week that the NAIA banned trans athletes from women's sports, so banned men from competing against women. And we looked at that. We went into that. If you haven't seen that episode, I encourage you to go watch that. But basically, going off of that, right here in this moment is a perfect example of exactly why the NAI did what they did, because of the just idiocy behind these policies. So we'll read on a little bit more, and then we'll actually play the clip, and then we'll make a few more comments. Gallagher has also said keep in mind, every time I'm reading this, on my end, I'm seeing she. But I'll fix it for you guys. So just to clarify, just because I want you guys to know that whoever wrote this article is Melissa Koenig. Did I pronounce her name? I'm sure. So anyways, Gallagher has also said he would take hormone replacement therapy, telling his high school newspaper last year that he believed it would make him a lot more confident because right now I'm just going to keep on getting more and more masculine, more facial hair and stuff like that. Well, yeah, that's typically what happens when a sophomore, boy begins to get older, you get facial hair, you get more masculine. So they'll do their hormone replacement. He said, and I don't want that. But as the video of his victory at the Sherwood Need for Speed spread over the weekend, many online said that he has an unfair advantage over biological female athletes. So we'll go ahead and play the clip at this point, and then I'll come back and finish the rest of the article because we've got a few more paragraphs to work through. But I want to play the clip at this point so you guys can see him, Gallagher, running and competing against these women. So let's play that clip.
7 for Bergen Episcopal, Abby Wilson. Very well. It's Gallagher and McDaniel in lane 2. You're going to see Gallagher later on in the relays. Great knees, great drive. Gallagher, the victory here in section number 1. 25:49. Second and Wilson in 37.
Well, we see the clip there. I mean, it's not even close. I mean, all the girls are leaps and bounds behind this biological boy. I think when I was watching the video, it looked like he finished around the 25-second mark, roughly. And the closest next female looked like she finished around the 30-second mark. And so looking at this, it just made me wonder. I don't know much about track and field. I didn't play track and field. I played football and other sports. So I don't know average times. And so I did some research. I dug some stuff up and looked up average times across the country for high school boys. And I'm not surprised. It proved exactly what I thought it would prove. So as we look at this, the average time for a biological high school boy to complete a 200-meter race competitively, right? We're talking top of the line, right? The best athletes in the country are, 21 to 24 seconds, right? In that range, that is really competitive. That's good speed for 200 for a biological boy. And the more casual runners, so we're talking like bottom of the barrel, people who are not really competitive, but, they run the 200-meter race and their average and not great would be 25 or 26 seconds or more. And we saw our friend there finished at roughly 25 seconds. So in a boys competition, competing against other boys, he would be, barely edging his way around average, lower end of the pack. He would not be competing on a national level or dominating in any way, shape, or form. But for high school girls, biological female girls who are in high school, 25 to 27 seconds is considered the best of the best, the competitive bunch out of the girls. So we're looking at this, and then it says over 28 seconds is less competitive. It's people who are new to the sport and are still learning, and that's probably what these other girls were, considering he's a sophomore. And so I know it had mentioned in the article, and I don't know how accurate this is, but it did mention that he did finish second to a female. And so that female runner is the best of the best. That female runner is great, right? And I think the thing is that people can get caught up in, he didn't win. There was another female that beat him. But at the end of the day, when we're looking at this, that female runner is at her very, very best as a biological woman. And Gallagher, he is at the bottom of his biological category. And we see all these other women just being completely dominated, right? I mean, this just goes to show, right, that we don't see people, these biological boys, we don't see the ones that are great, that are the top of the line, right? The best of the best transitioning and becoming females and competing there. It's always the biological boys who are bottom of the barrel, the bottom of the barrel when it comes to the athletic competitions. They transition over into the female competitions, and then they're the best. I just find that funny. I find that ironic how it always works that way, where they're the worst or one of the worst when it comes to the men's competitions or the boys' competitions, and then they transition to compete against the girls, and then they're second place, first place, the best, right? If it wasn't for that other girl, he would have smoked the competition. I mean, it's just ridiculous when we look at this, and it just clearly goes to show and goes to prove exactly what we already knew to be true. Boys, men who are born with different structures, different chemical balances, different biological makeup, are clearly built for athletic competitions, are built in a way in which, on average, they are stronger, faster, and more capable to compete than women. And that's just a fact. Nobody can argue against that in any way, shape, or form. You can try, but your argument won't follow through when it comes to reality. When your argument meets reality, you'll realize that reality always wins. So let's go ahead and read and finish this article. It says here, after that, it says, these high school girls just had their dreams stolen from them because the school is catering to the delusions of a boy who is pretending to be a girl. That is libs of TikTok, as she wrote on her X account. He is a cheater. Megan Murphy, a Canadian podcaster and author, also slammed the video as sick and disgusting. I want to know why his parents are allowing him to mock female athletes, why his coach is allowing him to cheat, and why these girls' coaches and parents aren't speaking up. That's the question, right? Why? I mean, this is why, part of me, I can't really, when me and my wife begin to raise our children and to send them, we're not going to send them to school, but to put them in athletic competitions, if that's what they want to do or whatever hobbies they have. But if my kids do decide to have sports hobbies, especially girls, it's hard for me to balance that out in my head right now, because I cannot imagine sitting there as a father or as a parent and allowing this to take place. This person who commented and said, where are the parents? That's the big question. Where are the parents? Like, you just stand there and just let your daughters get embarrassed by this boy? You're okay with that? I mean, I just don't understand it. As a future father, it just would not fly. It would be something that I'd probably go to jail for. And so I don't know, if things don't change, I don't think my daughter will be playing track or running or playing any type of sport in which there would be a trans person, because that's when things might not be the best. Because at the end of the day, my objective is to protect and provide for my daughter and my family, and some of these sports will directly put your children in harm's way. I know this one's not a physical contact sport, but basketball, I mean, what about basketball? When you have a biological man bumping and elbowing and hitting women, even the MMA right now, it's just insane. I mean, none of my daughters would ever fight in the MMA, but it's just ridiculous. Two-time Team USA track and field star Carolyn Johnson further argued, at some point, we have to be willing to see this for what it is. Well, good for her for speaking up. Please stop pretending like this is anything other than telling young female athletes they don't matter. One parent who said her daughter also competed in the 200-meter race blasted the video. Her daughter competed in this race. Blasted the video as insane. How can anyone think this is fair? The mother wrote that the athletes come from across Oregon to compete in the event, and this is what they got. Beaten by a boy. She went on to say that Saturday's results would likely propel Gallagher to the state competition, where she will beat all the girls except maybe one, right? That's what we were just talking about, break records, and be called a hero. For being a male who races against the girls and wins, we must demand a third category in high school. They're just mean, they're taking this a different direction. I don't think there should be a third category. I think everyone should just compete in the two categories. We've had two categories for all time since the dawn of civilization, and it has never failed us. If it's not broke, don't fix it. That's what I think. We do not need to make a third category. Because like I said, if Gallagher, if he was competing against his proper class of men and boys, I mean, he would be smoked. He wouldn't even have a chance of going to state. But, this is what we have. We have parents and people who, speak out online, which is great. I think that coming out and speaking out against it is great. But where are the parents who are willing to do something in person? I mean, that's the thing. Nobody has the courage and the guts to stand up to this in person, to pull their daughter out of the race. Why would you allow your daughter to continue in the competition after you see that? Once you see that, that's over. You just say, you're not racing anymore. No, we're not doing this. Yet, we continue to put up with this as a culture because everybody's too afraid to say something because they're going to get canceled or they're going to get, the mob's going to come after them and all those things. But as more and more people are beginning to realize, as we do our jobs as conservatives to call out this nonsense for what it is, and as people begin to see how ridiculous the trans ideology is, we are inching our way closer and closer to victory. And more people are realizing that transgenderism and everyone involved and all these men competing against women are all frauds. And they've sold a bill of lies, they've pushed this narrative, and people are beginning to realize that this isn't right. This is evil. This goes in the face of everything that women stand for, that feminists stand for. We have these competitions for women to empower them, to give them a platform and an opportunity to compete and to excel. Not saying they have to be better than men or whatever that is. We just saw that with the female NCAA tournament, March Madness, right? The female basketball game was watched by millions more than the men. And so, in order to maintain that, though, we need to draw the line and not. We need to draw the line, and we need to not cave on it. We need to not budge. We need to stand strong and to hold the line and not allow these phonies, these disgusting men and boys, to compromise our women and our female athletes. Because when we do that, we see all these other girls, they didn't have their opportunity to shine. They didn't have their opportunity to perform. When you put a biological boy there, he makes all of them look ridiculous. He ridicules them, and he makes every single one of them look like chumps in comparison to him because of his biological advantage. And that's just the reality of the situation. So, let's continue to speak out, continue to be bold, continue to be courageous, and let's continue to accept reality for what it is. Men are men, women are women, boys are boys, girls are girls. It's really that simple. Well, thank you for watching and listening. That'll do it for the show today. You can find us at principled-politics.com. And remember, stay principled.